Hey guys, it's Brent. I am back with another video. I know it has been a while since I've posted. I'm sorry about that. I am going to be working on some new content. I have some exciting ideas for the channel, including, different games and some other series that I'm planning on doing. That said, I'm not planning on giving up on The Strongest Hero anytime soon, especially with the anniversary coming up. We've got some content to look forward to, I hope, and I've still got plenty of showcases to do for you, so I'll still be around, and I'll still be posting, hopefully more frequently than the past couple weeks. Without further ado, that being said, let's talk about the topic of today's video. So, I mentioned that active cards aren't really that important to pull for. That is still the advice I stand by, but mostly to free-to-play or light spenders. If you're putting a fair amount of money into the game, or if you have really good odds and pull a bunch of the heroes and you have some coins to spare, there are some cards that are pretty solid and honestly game-breaking, mostly for hero ratings. So this hero rating mode, in order to get 3 stars on Extreme Pursuit and Point Explosion, there are some cards that can help. So let's get into the tier list. So top tier is going to be Endeavor, Best Jeanist, Izawa. So Endeavor makes the top of this list because he's a solid unit, or a solid card, in essentially every mode. He's great in agency assessments because of that crit. He pulls people together and then you can land some solid critical strikes on them for 4 seconds. His main purpose is going to be in hero rating, Point Explosion. There, your crit rate is dropped, but your crit damage is boosted. So you drop Endeavor, get 100% crit rate, and you can destroy those robots so much more quickly than without him. Without him, you need massive BP, and, some of the lower characters, he's almost necessary. So he can help you get at least 1 star or 3 on that, which is why he is the top of our list. Next up is Best Jeanist. Best Jeanist deals more damage than Endeavor, but his rooting is his main skill. So that is useful in Extreme Pursuit. That can hold people back so that you have a little bit more time to deal some damage and hopefully win Extreme Pursuit. Last up we have is Izawa. Now I have to put the caveat that Izawa hasn't been released, nobody has used this card, so we can't say for sure that he's as good as I think he's going to be. He might have a bad hitbox, a really high cooldown, something like that. But just reading his ability, reducing 50% of the enemy's shield value will be a big deal against Iron Wall or against Tesla the second time you fight him in hero ratings. So he can really help with those, and that's why he's pretty high on the list. The next tier would be All Might, Mount Lady, Nezu, and Roadie. All Might and Mount Lady are both obtainable through this support card Sniper. Now the only way you can get them is with the random self pick, which means it could be any of the 6-star cards if you get a 6-star. I don't really think that's worth it. That's not a great way to get them, but you technically can, and you can also get them through fusion, fusing 5-star cards into a 6-star. Because of that, they have higher availability, I guess, or obtainability than some of the other cards, which does help them. But even outside of that, their skills are useful. All Might deals a fair amount of damage, 740% of attack, and I have to mention that this attack percentage is a percent of your character's attack. So on a stronger character with more buffs, it will be higher. But his main draw is that he pulls people in. In agency assessments, he can deal some pretty good damage if he pulls a whole group in, deals 740% of attack, and then you come up with, a follow-up attack. Mount Lady, on the other hand, doesn't deal damage to groups. She can hit multiple targets if they're really close together, but she's only got one hitbox. She deals pretty high damage. Not the highest of any of these people with one hitbox, but pretty high. But her main use for me is in mock contest. So she can come out really quickly, deal tons of damage, and take those enemies out before some characters would even have time to attack. So that's why she can really help in that mode. She can also help in Agency, in Apex, pretty much anything, right? It's a solid attack, deals a lot of damage. So she's a pretty overall useful card. Now, Nezu is here for a couple reasons. First off, he is very attainable. He's a 5-star, so you'll get quite a few just by playing and fusing. But also, he deals decent damage to a huge area. In Warzone and Super Co-op, he can really change the tide of battle, because he can hit the enemy's whole group, he can stun them. So yeah, he's really great to have on those teams. Also, he's good in assessment for groups. He's good in Apex to kind of break combos. He can help keep Ida's combos going. Overall, he's a really solid card and can hit a fair amount of enemies. Rounding out the A tier, we have Roadie. Now, he is no longer attainable, potentially ever, if the devs are correct. There are some licensing issues from what I've heard. If this does come back, he's the best World Heroes mission card to go for. He can increase damage of all allies by 28% and recover 0.4% of HP every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. That heal is really minor, even when you get up to Breakthrough 4. But it's something. But really, he shines with that damage buff. In Agency assessments, that's useful for going for the Superstar title, because it can help you deal more damage, but it also boosts your whole team. So, 3 people dealing that much extra damage is pretty powerful. You also could use him on Super Co-op and Warzone. So he's got quite a few uses as a buff, and honestly, he doesn't deal any damage, but in my experience, most of my damage comes from my characters anyway, so sometimes buffing them makes more sense than using a card just for damage. For tier B, in the middle here, we've got Toga, Kamui, Barros, and Snipe. So Toga is another single target damage. She deals more damage than Mount Lady, but her downside is that she takes longer to do it and it takes multiple strikes. So that kind of puts her at a lower rank, but she is still pretty decent and she deals a good amount of damage. Next up is Kamui Woods. So Kamui used to be top tier, honestly, but the reason he kind of shifted downward for me is because Best Jeanist has outclassed him. They deal about the same amount of damage, but Kamui can only attack people in front of him and root them. Best Jeanist can root in people who aren't necessarily in a straight line. So he's kind of filled the niche for Extreme Pursuit that Kamui Woods used to be exclusive for. That said, Kamui is more easily attainable, so he does have that going for him. Next up, we have Barros, who is another World Hero Mission exclusive, so may never be returning. But she deals shoots 4 arrows, deals some damage immediately, and then each arrow deals some damage on top of that. So she's a pretty solid damage dealer, 880%, combined, plus the 10% that she can deal to enemies nearby. So she deals good damage, but I'm not personally a fan of the 4 different arrows shooting out. But, you know, she's kind of right on par with some of the other damage dealers, specifically Toga, but she's not very easy to obtain. Now, discount Barros is Snipe. He's easily attainable. You can break him through to level 3, and, you know, he does pretty decent single target damage. But, you know, he basically has the same drawbacks. He shoots multiple times. You can kind of break out of that combo if it's being used in Apex. But yeah, he fills a similar niche and is easier to obtain. Here in Tier C, we've got Jiro and Seidero. So Jiro here is a card that was relatively hotly debated in my alliance, but I'm going based on my understanding of what this means, and I could be wrong, but her damage isn't great. She has an interesting skill where she can remove invisibility status and stun enemies. That's okay in Apex for Froppy, but it doesn't last long. And it's okay in hero ratings for the last floor, but you don't really need her to be successful there. Some good AoE can take that out. So the uses for her kind of special talent of scouting are really limited in this game. But this sentence, increasing damage taken of nearby enemies by 12% for 10 seconds, that I interpret to mean that it increases damage taken on the enemy for your whole party. And Mina has a similar skill, I'll cover that later, but Jiro is at a higher percentage and it's easier to strike. So that's why she is up here. Now, Seidero deals a ton of damage. He's one of our heaviest hitting cards. However, his main drawbacks, he has quite a few drawbacks. So one of them being you can't get him anymore. But some other drawbacks are his 40-second cooldown. That is one of the longest of any cards. So net damage, if you're using the cards constantly, he's not going to rank as high as some of the others. Also, he doesn't throw that iron ball very far, so his hitbox is pretty close to him and it's easy to miss. So at the end of the day, he is not the best option for this single target niche that he can fill. We have plenty of others covered previously. And at the bottom tier is Mina, Gran Torino, and Death Arms. Now Mina, I mentioned when I was talking about Jiro, her main draw is this increases damage taken by 8%. Her damage is a little higher than Jiro, and this damage taken increase lasts for 15 seconds instead of 10. But assuming I'm understanding this correctly and they are the same type of damage increase, her percentage is lower, and Mina has a very low or a very small hitbox, so it's hard to land that strike. She can be good on bosses and definitely can increase damage dealt for the whole party, so she's still got some uses, but there is a better card to pursue. That said, Mina is available in the support card Sniper pack, so she can be fused, so she's a little easier to obtain as well. Gran Torino has a damage dealing potential it's not that high. He increases move speed for the user and all allies. You know, that's got some really niche uses. If you're doing chemical plant, you need to run through those wrecking balls. He can speed you up through that. For the most part, unfortunately, move speed is not that important of a skill, So his main draw is buffing that, and there aren't many times you need it. So overall, this card kind of just becomes lackluster. And finally, Death Arms, our only 4-star active card. You know, the only real use here is for low-level players who don't have anything better. Or I do use it to pad out my team because I like going for highest overall BP, and he's really easy to break through, so I have, you know, probably 20 of him broken through to tier 2, so I can put one on every character who doesn't have better cards. That just increases BP by a little bit. Otherwise, I mean, he just does a punch dealing 340% attack. Again, that niche is, you know, single target damage, and there are plenty of better choices. So really, he just kind of serves as a holdover card. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for my tier list of active cards in My Hero Academia, the strongest hero. Generally speaking, I would recommend going for Resonance of Heroes above all else, but some of these high tier cards can be useful for hero ratings, which increase battle power substantially. So this, you know, these are worth a little investment, but at the rate that they are going, right, the same price as a hero pull, I would be really sparing with what I spend on active cards. That said, here are, you know, the ones I think are good, the ones I think aren't that great. So take it or leave it. I hope that this helps someone. If it does, let me know, and let me know what you think of these rankings in the comments. But otherwise, I look forward to talking to you guys next time and exploring some exciting new videos. All right, thanks guys.